Shalom, shalom, brothers and sisters in Yeshua HaMashiach, Jesus Christ of Nazareth. He is the Lord of Lords, the King of Kings, the Alpha, the Omega, the beginning and the ending. Amen. That's according to Isaiah 9 verse 6, Micah 5 verse 2, Revelations 1, John chapter 1, and Colossians chapter 1. Jesus is the Lord of Lords and the King of Kings. Amen. And he's coming back very soon to take his bride up to the marriage supper of the Lamb. I believe that is according to the pre-tribulation rapture scriptures. 1 Corinthians 15:52, 1 Thessalonians chapter 4 verse 16, and the marriage supper is in Revelations 19. And of course the 5 wise virgins will go to be with the Lord at midnight. All right. Now, I want to talk about a few things. I have been, as many of you know, I've been planning to live off-grid with my mom because she had to retire, so she wouldn't get the injection, okay? And so we were planning on moving off-grid if we weren't able to make the payments in the apartment. Okay, so what I've been doing is with the off-grid stuff that I have that we purchased, I've been making sort of EMP proof containers. All right, I do believe there's going to be a blackout, an EMP event, whether it's a solar flare, whether it's a nuclear EMP discharge from the high altitude sort of missile launch. Okay, there's a number of ways that basically an electromagnetic pulse could destroy pretty much every electronic device. All right, so basically this is an EMP case that is coated with metal, because metal blocks out the electromagnetic pulse, and as well as like 5G, 4G frequencies, cell phone frequencies, and so on and so forth. Okay, so it's called a Faraday cage or a Faraday box or a Faraday bag, however you want the container to be. Now, what I did here is I placed a couple of very inexpensive it's like they're two-way walkie-talkies. Okay, they're very inexpensive from Amazon. I think it was like $35 for 2 of them, rechargeable, and you don't need a license to use these very inexpensive communication devices that don't require the use of a cell tower. All right. Now, communication is important for those who will be left behind, those who will be trying to survive a grid down event. So this is basically a box that it was a cardboard box that I had laying around. And what I did was I wrapped the cardboard box with aluminum foil, and also I used some additional, it's like, it's a type of fabric. Okay, you probably have to do some more research if you want to make your own Faraday cage, but it's like metallic fabric that you can get from Amazon or other places, and it blocks the different signals. It blocks EMPs, things of that nature. But the very important part about a Faraday cage is you have to have sort of a barrier between the items contained inside of it. So, for instance, the cardboard box is separating the outside metal from the inside things that are contained inside. Okay, so that's an important thing to remember. Also, you have to basically cover every seam, every inch of the container with metal, and it has to be conductive, sort of as one piece. So that's why using this is a conductive tape. This is copper tape. I think some various tradespeople use this sort of tape. It's high heat resistant, but it's also conductive, and it's double adhesive. The meaning the glue also is adhesive. Okay, so like what I do first is I cover this box with aluminum foil. I use the copper tape to join each piece of aluminum foil to another piece of aluminum foil, so that way it's conductive all around. And then after that, sometimes I'll coat it with this to give it an extra layer of protection, but I usually do about two layers of aluminum foil on the container, so like 2 heavy-duty layers of aluminum foil all the way around, and then I'll piece it together with the tape. But keep in mind that this tape, it does not wear well. It doesn't do well if it's at a seam. So if there's a seam constantly moving, this tape will crack and it will fall apart. So if you want to tape like a seam that has like a hinge or something, for instance, I also have Velcro here, but see here, this is the copper tape, or not the copper tape, this is the metallic fabric. And then this part here, see how it has like a hinge to it? Well, if you use copper tape on that, it will crack, and it will allow frequencies and energy pulses to go through the cracks. So you have to use a certain type of tape on the seams, and that's where you get something like this. This is very inexpensive as well, from like Amazon. Okay, and it's called Faraday tape, and it's a fabric tape. So it's just like this. It's just like this. It's a metallic fabric, but it also has an adhesive glue attached to it, making it a tape. Okay, so whenever I have like a hinge or something that requires a lot of wear and tear, that's when I use this sort of thing. Okay, so here I just use some Velcro. Okay, and then I also have these little tabs here to keep this container closed, because you want it to be airtight, or you want it to be tight so that no frequencies, no electronic pulses can get into the container. Okay, so I have a couple of Velcro tabs. Okay, use the tape here. All right, and then I just sort of constructed my own little device here, in terms of, because whenever you fold something over, you want to have it really so that there's no open seams or no open gaps. Okay, so that's pretty secure there. And inside here, you'll see that I used aluminum foil and the copper tape because that's what this whole thing is originally wrapped in. Alright, so here you see also the aluminum foil is on the back side, and as well as on here. Okay, so I like to use aluminum foil for the bulk protection, because it's very inexpensive, and my mom has a lot of it. Alright, so here we see these are just a couple, or this is actually just a charger and the information, but here's the very inexpensive radios, but these radios, I don't know, what brand is that? I think it's Raddad iFly, is that correct? Radio Diddy, okay, that's the one that I got here. All right, but very inexpensive. You could charge it if you have a power bank. It could be charged with a USB plug. Let me turn off the heater for a moment. The heater might be loud in the background. So it's a very inexpensive thing here, but basically you could also use it as not only as a communication device, but it also picks up any radio signal. Now I know if there's an EMP, you're not going to hear any, any popular radio stations because the towers will be down. There'll be no electricity unless somehow they have some sort of EMP proof generator to keep the radio stations going. I really doubt it though. All right. So there's just something to think about for leaving stuff behind for friends and family. Okay. Now, if you don't want to leave behind something like this for a grid down situation, you could also think about, whatever could fit in something like this. Now, keep in mind, what I do is after I do the aluminum foil, I put a coating of tape around the aluminum foil. That way it doesn't get pierced by like somebody poking it or something, because if the aluminum foil gets pierced, then that'll compromise the integrity of the Faraday cage. So keep that in mind. This here is some Gorilla tape that it's really durable actually. It's not that expensive. It's kind of expensive. You could probably find some cheaper stuff. But I've been using Gorilla tape to basically protect the aluminum foil layers. Okay. So you could put whatever you want in here to leave behind for friends and family. Now keep in mind, if an EMP or a solar flare goes off, that means nobody's going to have electricity, okay? Which is not a good thing. It's going to create chaos and anarchy if it really does happen, which I believe it really will happen, okay? Probably around the time of the rapture. Now, with that said, you could actually, you could purchase like a solar powered battery bank, and basically it's just like a handheld battery, which you could use. It comes with a solar panel attached to it, but it's not very effective. But essentially it allows people to charge, to get some sort of electricity from the sun. All right. Now, if there's a nuclear explosion and there's a bunch of debris in the atmosphere, they won't be able to use solar panels or anything like that. And if you have solar panels, those also will need to be probably inside of a Faraday container as well. But you can get like little handheld, very very miniature sized power banks, which come with solar panels attached to them for like $50 or 40 or $50. All right, so that's one way that somebody could be able to charge a phone. So if you wanted to leave an inexpensive phone, you could buy like a $30 phone, or if you have like an old phone that you're not using, you could just put like some PDF documents, like a left behind letter, or maybe you could insert a memory card into the phone and leave videos about the end times or a message you want to leave, and you could put that inside. inside of the Faraday box or whatever it is. So really, if you want somebody to be able to read your PDFs, your left behind letters digitally, you would have to have some sort of solar charging USB battery bank, as well as, you know, the phone itself, and all of it would have to go inside of something like this, okay? Because if an EMP goes off, the EMP would destroy the phone. It would most likely destroy the handheld battery bank, okay? So you would really have to put it in something like this. All right, and one way to test that this thing actually works is you could put like a phone inside of here. You could close it, and if you call the phone and the phone still rings and it's still picking up the call, that means you have gaps in the container, and you'd have to, you know, of course, fix the gaps. Okay, or you just don't have enough layers of metal, of aluminum foil or Faraday fabric. Okay, so sometimes I'll make something like this, and you know, there's certain cracks at the seams or something, and then I'll have to sort of adjust it until, you know, the signal's not coming through. Another way to test it is you could put your you could put your phone on, like you could have a video live stream going on YouTube. You could put the phone inside of the container, close the container, and if the live stream is still going while it's inside the container, then that means the phone is getting signal, and you probably don't have a solid Faraday container. Okay, so remember, if the Wi-Fi or the internet is getting into the phone or getting into the case and being transmitted to the phone, then that means also an EMP would be able to get through to the device as well. So keep that in mind. All right, so that's something very inexpensive you could do. Just, this is mostly a cardboard box with aluminum foil, and then you have some extra Faraday fabric and some Faraday tape and some duct tape, okay? And a little bit of copper tape as well, okay? Now, if you don't want to do the big box, but you just want to leave maybe a small phone or like a USB battery bank with the charging cords, okay, if you want to just leave it in something small like this, I think this was just a Ziploc bag, okay? So the Ziploc bag serves as a barrier between the items contained inside and the electric coating on the outside. Okay, so what I did for this is basically, it's just like a Ziploc bag or some sort of plastic zipper bag, and I just coated it with aluminum foil several times, and then here where I roll up the end, because you want to make sure that when you make these sort of bags that you really get it airtight with this sort of seal here. So what I do is I use these little office clips that my mom had laying around to sort of, you know, see how it's right here. You have metal to metal. Okay, you always want to have it metal to metal. That way it's conductive all the way around. Okay, so here you have metal to metal, and then I have it pinched, but you want to make sure that there's at least one roll. Okay, so you always want to roll it over itself at least one time. So I have it here, and then you roll it over on itself, and when you roll it over, when you roll the fabric over on itself, that creates a blockage so that no signal could get in. Okay, so the rollover method is very, very important from what I've learned. All right, so again, just some sort of plastic bag, and then I use aluminum foil. And then here, where you do the rollover method, you're going to want to use this fabric, because this fabric can bend, okay? This metallic Faraday fabric. And on the bendy part here with the creases, you do not want to use this this copper tape, because again, it will just become very cracked, and it won't be, it won't be foolproof at that point. So use the you could use aluminum foil, but the aluminum foil is actually going to crack too here at the seams where you roll it. Okay, so I wouldn't rely on using aluminum foil on the rollover part, but rather use a couple layers of the Faraday fabric and join it to the base of it, the aluminum foil base, using this. So then you would use aluminum foil for the case, and then do supports or reinforce the edges with copper tape or with this kind of tape. And then, so this, underneath the black tape, underneath the Gorilla Tape, you have aluminum foil, and then it's joined together to this sort of fabric using this sort of tape to create this sort of rollover effect here, if that makes sense. Okay, I've gone through a lot of trial and error with this. So yeah, you could just put whatever you want in here, whether it's, a small phone or, some memory cards that you could, use for your phone, or a little pocket light, or, whatever you want to leave behind. But I would recommend some sort of battery bank, rechargeable battery bank, via solar, as well as some sort of phone to watch videos, or to read biblical PDFs about the end times. That's just my recommendation. And you could, of course, also do something a lot more simple. Well, I wouldn't say it's simple, but here I created my own little phone case. So I have a couple different phones that I use for ministry, for making videos and recording stuff. And so I created cases for some of the phones that I use for ministry, so that I could be available to those after some sort of EMP event or solar flare event. So basically, same thing. I basically create a plastic layer, and then on top of the plastic layer, I do the aluminum foil and the copper tape, and then I create some sort of rollover method using this sort of fabric as well as the fabric tape, and then it creates a nice seal. And then for this one here, I just created, let me see. I created a little sleeve here to keep that rolled up. Okay. So basically the phone just goes inside of it. You just roll over the end and you put a sleeve on it. All right. And then again, I covered the aluminum foil with the duct tape. Okay. So that, someone can't just pierce it, or if you drop it and it, and the aluminum foil breaks or something. All right. Now, you could actually purchase, a Faraday case for your phone on like Amazon, but I found out that when I purchased the Faraday case like for 10 or 15 bucks on Amazon, and even though it has like this metallic layer, for some reason the signal still gets through. Okay, so you really have to test to make sure that the Faraday containers actually work. All right. So yeah, I created my own sort of thing, and after testing it, this there's no way for the signals, the Wi-Fi signals or the cell tower signals to get in. So I know for sure that that it will block out the EMP pulse as well. Now the EMP only requires like 40 or 50 decibel protection, which is it's a term to the 50 decibels. It's the amount of thickness, it's the amount of protection that the metal provides. Now aluminum foil, I think just a single layer of aluminum foil is like 40 decibels of protection. Okay, or dB, 40 dB of protection. But again, you could watch. I'm not an expert. I've just been sort of studying this stuff on my off time. But I wanted to leave something behind if I am counted worthy to go in the rapture. Okay, so you could create a phone case using these supplies. You can create a bigger box like this, or you could just do like a Ziploc bag design as well. So I mean, however you want to do it, if you do want to leave anything that's electronic behind for friends and family, okay, if they're not taken in the rapture, as I believe these things are coming very soon. And Jesus himself said to watch and pray always, that you're counted worthy to escape and to stand before the Son of Man. Luke 21